next game, we're going to Manhattan, Kansas. It's Kansas Jayhawks. Uh, it's so weird for me to say that. Traveling to Manhattan, Kansas, playing the Kansas State Wildcats. All right, this is a 12-point favorite by Kansas State. Over under is set at 62.5. That's a lot of points. Kansas, huge on the year, kind of started off where the darlings of college football, and then they've lost four of the last five here. Kansas State, fresh. Are we thinking that this is possibly, if they win this game, they're going to the Big 12 title game and getting another shot at TCU, which I don't know about you, I kind of really would like Kansas State's chances against that TCU team a second time around. Fresh, give me a little bit about Kansas State.
I mean, I think this is the first thing I put on my notes is can we all just pause and realize that this is an 8 o'clock kickoff on Fox, nationally televised game? Um, I can't remember a Kansas State basketball game being the focal point, much less a football game, as being the main broadcast for a premier network. So what's that? That's how important, how amazing both these teams have been all year. Um, this rivalry goes back to 1902, pretty fierce. Kansas leads it all, but when they put the Governor's Trophy in place in the late '60s, that's when Kansas State has actually owned the series. They've been more prominent in the past 40, almost 50 years. So it's gone back and forth over the time. Um, the second thing I sort of saw when I looked at this football game was Jalen Daniels came back last week versus Texas after being hurt for a few weeks, and that offense definitely took a downturn when he got dinged up and injured. And it's right around that time when they're peaking, they're having a great run. He was definitely the catalyst behind that offensive in that team moving forward. So him last week, Texas, I'll give him a pass. You sort of have to get back out there and the hits are coming again and getting the game action. But I think he's going to be a major difference maker when it comes to this football game because he's had a game under his belt now. He understands it's a big rivalry. And as they're already bowl eligible, but you want to beat your rival, knock them out of a chance to play for a conference championship game. That's a big deal. That's exactly what a rivalry thing is. It's like, not only do I beat you, I keep you from playing for a championship in the conference. It's a double whammy and a huge bragging point, a huge momentum builder going into bowl season for a program that has come off the mat after some terrible seasons and has put together a solid year. Um, he's gonna have to do it more than just himself, though. He's really gonna need running back Devin Neal to be heavily involved. The two of them early in the year, they really got this team going. Great quarterback being mobile, great running game. The two of them in the backfield creating opportunities on the edges and between the tackles, and then obviously opening up the play action pass from there. If they are on their game early in this football game, and then they can be consistent throughout, it's going to be a solid momentum push for the Jayhawks in this ball game. On the other side, Adrian Martinez is there, but it's Deuce Vaughn. He is the all be all, do it everything, the Swiss Army knife, and Kansas is going to have to find a way to limit. You cannot shut him down. You just have to limit his possessions. It's kind of like in basketball where a star player, they're going to get theirs. They're going to get their 25 to 30. You still want them to go for 50. You want to minimize the rest of the team on their approach. You just got to let him get his. Don't go crazy and take away everybody else, and you'll be able to be okay. Then that comes into this play where you have Martinez and you have Vaughn. Vaughn's going to get his. You've got to take Martinez away and then minimize receivers. And you should have at least somewhat of a successful defensive plan against the Kansas State offense. That's where they've gotten in trouble on the season in their losses, which they've been few, but they've had inconsistencies in their offense where they've struggled and not been able to maintain a consistent, philosophy and press the entire football game. K-State is allowing 18.7 points a game. Kansas is allowing 32. That's the biggest discrepancy in this football game is that defensive effort from Kansas is not up to par where their offense is. And Kansas State, they actually play defense. If Kansas State's given up in this football game 20 points or less, this is a blowout. Kansas has got to be able to score 24, 28 points, and they've got to have a little bit more of an effort defensively. Now, there's two ways you can go about it. You can have a great defensive effort. The guys are all on cue and they're watching film all week. Or your offense, instead of scoring fast, you try to slow it down, kill some clock, keep your defense on the sideline, let them rest, but you have to maximize those drives with touchdowns. You've got to play a team philosophy and not just we're going to score real quick and then sit back and put our defense back on the field. We were just talking about Tennessee. One thing they've done all year is, we mentioned it many podcasts ago, is that they were 121st in time of possession, but they're scoring a ton of points. And it's great if you're scoring quick and you're giving the ball back. But if you're not scoring and those drives are over in 3 plays, your defense is rushing back on the field and you're empty, and then you're going to eventually get exhausted as the wear and tear of the football game goes. So you have to, as Kansas has to be able to manage their offense and not score too fast, but they still need to score. Give your defense a break. Let them get some rest, because they're going to be running left and right and up and down, chasing Martinez and Vaughn all day long. Both teams are scoring 32 points a game, so the offenses are both there. It's just that, can that Kansas defense develop and play their game of their season this week? We haven't seen it lately. They definitely did not play real well versus Texas last week, giving over 50 points. They're going to have to show up and play with a lot of pride and try to get this upset and really shake up the landscape. Because number one, like we said before, it keeps Kansas State out of the conference title game. It prevents them from potentially getting a championship under their belt, and it knocks them out of a pretty good bowl game, and it actually increases your bowl chances. There's a lot of positives there for Kansas. So Kansas State's going to be very wary in the Little Apple to be able to be focused and take advantage of it. It's a night game. I hope that place is full of purple, because that fans are coming out on Thanksgiving weekend and really showing up for their program. And the other biggest fear, though, I think TCU is probably rooting for Kansas State, because if Kansas State loses and Texas beats Baylor, Texas is now playing TCU for that title. And I can tell you right now, Texas left a lot on the field, and TCU didn't play very great offensively when they met a couple weeks ago in Austin. If they get a rematch, that Texas team might be a little re-energized and refocused for a rematch, and that might get them a chance to get that W and really blow up the college football playoff altogether. So TCU is rooting for purple. Kansas State's going to have to play with focus. Kansas, if you are there, play smart, play team organized football, and try to find ways to get touchdowns. Field goals will not get you this win. Daniels, do you have a little magic left in you? We saw it versus Houston early in the year. Do you have a little extra left in that tank to put on display this Saturday night with the lights are the brightest and get it done? And at the end, I think Kansas State finds a way to get it done. I think they have more offensive weapons consistently, and the defense is obviously better. But it should be an exciting football game for the full 4 quarters. But Kansas State gets it done, and we get an all-purple game in Jerry World the week after for the title.
Fresh, if Kansas is going to win this game, they got to play better defensively. If you take a look at their offense compared to their defense, they're actually at a negative yardage when it comes to how much yardage their defense has given up. That's a concerning part for me. The Jayhawks were the best when they were kind of at least in the positive aspect there. And Deuce Vaughn is going to be an absolute terror for them. They're going to need to have someone spying on him at all times in this game. I don't know yet, is Adrian Martinez playing in this game, because he was being dinged up. I know that he hasn't been playing really in the last couple of weeks. I know he went out a couple games ago, but that's the intriguing thing, because Martinez has been really good, but Will Howard stepped in his place and maybe was a little bit better at times, and we'll see how he kind of plays as well. But again, this game is going to start and stop for Kansas State with Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn maybe is the best running back in college football that you haven't heard of if you haven't watched much Big 12 football. I really like Deuce Vaughn. I think that if he comes out this year, he has a good chance of being like the first running back taken, just because of his ability to run and catch the ball out of the backfield. You're going to need a huge game out of him. The last 3 games, he's hovered right around 4 yards a carry, kind of dipping into that 3.8, 3.5 yards a carry as well. That's a little bit concerning to me, because that means that they're not opening up the same level of holes that you saw them opening up earlier in the year. Again, for Kansas, it's going to come back to Jalen Daniels. If he's still feeling the effects of this injury, this game is out of action. It's done by halftime, and you guys can flip it off or change over to another night game. But if Jalen Daniels has that magic, if he's able to go to Manhattan and be where the lights are the brightest and kind of just walk down Broadway in Manhattan there, and I don't even know if Manhattan, Kansas has a Broadway, but if he's able to walk down Broadway and waltz around and show what he was able to do like he did at the beginning of the year, I think that Kansas has got a shot in this game. I don't give him a great shot here, but that 12 number is interesting to me. Why isn't it 14? I feel like that should be like a 14-point spread, especially being home. especially with Kansas reeling. I think it's interesting that the number's only sitting there at 12. I think Kansas does have a little bit of a shot with it, but for some reason, I'm with you. Kansas State's going to roll on this one. They're going to Jerry World. They're going to be playing in the Big 12 title game.
It's a good call out there by Will Howard. He has been the X factor down the stretch with Martinez dinged up. They haven't had an exact statement on Martinez in or out fully. There's also rumors that somebody, maybe jokingly, but they've gotten Will Howard here. If he's played enough games at this point, maybe redshirt the rest of the year, so you have him going forward. But I think he might have already passed that threshold. But he's definitely been kind of a dark horse there for that team, where I don't think they knew what they had in him, and he got on the field. And he's been electric as well, and they really haven't missed a beat offensively.